All right, so Cycplus reached out for me to check out these little mini inflators, and I'm actually pretty excited after using them for a couple weeks to let you know what I think. We're gonna run a whole bunch of tests as far as how many pumps they'll do, how long they take, and if they'll set up a tubeless. Before we get into it though, I'd love to check out other products, and if you guys have anything you'd recommend, let me know. Otherwise, don't forget to subscribe, and thanks for watching. More videos like this every Friday, as well as riding videos on Tuesdays. So let's take a look. They sent me both the Cycplus Pro and the Cycplus Pro Max. The Pro really is made to do everything, and the Max here is made more for mountain bike tires, and they even say motorcycles on their website. So let's see what's in the box. So of course the pump is in there. Get this little cover, which is cool, as well as a waterproof bag, some instructions, a charging cord, and some other, I guess, replacement parts, or if you want to use it for a Schrader valve, that's in there. First up, we have the AS2 Pro. So this guy is right at 120 grams. We'll verify that. I'll throw some specs up now. And then this is the AS2 Pro Max. So as you can see, a fair bit bigger, meant to do bigger tires. I'll throw up the specs for that right now as well. And we'll dive into how they work. We'll start with the AS2 Pro. All right, so for the first test, we're gonna see what it takes to air this tire up from zero. So I took the valve core out, let all the air out, put it back in, and this is a 29 by 2.5, and we're gonna air it up to 25 PSI. First off, we're gonna turn this guy on. So nice display there. You can see I got all three charged, and then I can add or subtract pressure, and whatever it's set to there, it's gonna air up to. And start. All right, so that took 1 minute and 5 seconds, up to 25 PSI. Let's see how it compares to a SKS gauge. So compared to this gauge, it's actually right at 23 PSI. Let's put this back on, see what it says. Which is actually what this says. So one thing, 24. One thing to note is if the valve has any sort of clog in it, you'll have to hit that again. And it may take a couple of those short guys, and it may take a couple of those to get it to that full pressure. But as you can see, we burned 0 battery, and from my testing so far, I can do 4 of these tires from 0, which is pretty impressive from this little guy. These are a relatively high volume tire. We're gonna go on to the AS2 Pro Max. This one is the specific mountain bike option, so let's see how well it does. First, I'll let the air pressure out. Same idea, a little bit bigger display. Hold that down. Pops up, also set to 25 PSI. Let's see how it compares for time. And go. So I knew this one was quite a bit faster, and we're looking at about 48 seconds. We'll check that one more time for pressure. It says it's still only at 24, so we'll do that again. Seems to be holding 25. So this time we're gonna see if I can set this thing up tubeless. I'm gonna let all the air pressure out now. It's only fair to break the bead on both sides. All right, and then we're gonna try this 2 different ways. First off, with the valve in, which often you'll need to take the valve out to set a bike up tubeless anyway, but most people try not to. Here we go. All right, I'm gonna call that a fail. I may have been able to work it around to get it to work, but still, not as easy as a compressor or a CO2. So without the valve, I'm gonna say that doesn't work. Right now though, I'll do all the extra stuff you can do to make this happen and see if it'll work at that point. So we're gonna do the same test, but with the max. Turn it back on. 25. Doesn't seem to be working. All right, take 2, this time without the valve. All right, this time I tried to get the bead seated by hand and we'll see how that worked. So long story short, neither worked. I did all the same steps with the max and unfortunately had the same result. I'm not saying it won't work to set tires up tubeless, but I wasn't able to make it happen. So how does this thing compare to a CO2 cartridge? Well, first up, this is the one I generally carry, a little bit bigger than a 16 just because of the mountain bike tires, and we are looking at 114 grams. A little bit smaller. This is still a 20 gram cartridge, 85. And then to get 4 charges like you do out of the small version, you're probably looking at closer to 184. Next, we have the little guy. And they're guessing 120 grams. I'm weighing it 137, so a little bit heavier, but I am also weighing it with the case. The case is nice, keeps your hand from getting hot, but also keeps it from making too much rattling in your frame. And the big guy, 228. Their claim is 205, but again, we got the cover. Finally, we'll compare it to a full-size mini pump, if that makes sense. 133. This isn't your lightest or smallest one, but it's one that works super well, especially on mountain bikes. None of these though have a gauge, so if you were to incorporate that gauge weight, it's another 55 grams or so. So lastly, let's talk about size. So many of the new bikes these days have this in-frame storage, which is a killer invention and awesome to have. I never carry a Camelback just about, and I never forget things because they're in the bike. But what does that mean for these new mini pumps? Well, with the Pro, I can actually wedge it inside this bag, which is super helpful to keep things from clattering around and easily grab it. So what about the Max? Well, it's going to depend a bit on your frame, but it does fit in my Santa Cruz Nomad and my Santa Cruz 5010. For the most part, I have needed to use 2 hands to get it out, but that's with the case on. So there's a few other ways to do it that work pretty well. First, you take the case off, and it basically falls in now. So the one thing that, to keep it from making too much noise, I've been putting it in a sunglass case. Drop it in, and you can pull it back out. So it's going to depend on your frame for sure. Like that Rocky Mountain I had is a lot larger, but works really well, even in the bigger AS2 Max. After using the Max to air at my friends and my tires before rides these last couple of weeks, I was still able to get 5 inflations from empty. I charged, and at that point, I got 9 inflations from 0 with the Max versus the Pro, which got me 4. So I can say they both work quite well. The Max takes the lead due to the fact that it's faster, lasts longer, and doesn't heat up as much. While a road tire may have a higher pressure, there's a lot of volume with these mountain tires. If you're a weight weenie, then I'd go with the Pro. But if you just want something that works, the Max lasts longer and works faster. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and if you want to pick one of these up for yourself, I have a link to Cycplus's site in the description, as well as my other affiliate links for Jensen USA, Rourke Apparel, Evo.com, and of course, there's more on my channel's page. Now get out there and ride. See you next week.